Democrat.
Yep.
Most Mexicans grew up in a Democratic household,
Yeah.
right? Like 99.9%, dude. If you're Catholic,
Yeah.
if you're Mexican, you were a Democrat. But what fucked it up for me was they went hard left pushing that fucking transgender agenda.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think, like, I'm for equality across the board for everybody, but when you push something so hard to make it to be like, hold on, now you're impeding on my rights and my children's rights because of what you want, that's where they lost me completely.
Yeah, I think that's
and
where
I
they
talked
lost a
to
lot of
hella
people.
yeah, that's where they lost them. And so they would rather have a fucking crooked business owner than somebody that goes against their morals and values,
I get
right?
that.
Especially the Republicans are supposed to be the party of value, right? So you got, but they use that to their advantage, and the Dems didn't have nothing to counter that. They used the whole transgender,
Yeah,
and
they
women's
definitely
sports and blah, blah, blah.
propagandized that because I mean I've followed the Biden administration, even Kamala. That Kamala campaign trail, she didn't say one word about trans people at all. But the whole thing was she's about to win and create a trans America. There's like 0.05% of America's population is trans, and Republicans love to talk about it because it distracts from every single other actual important issue that we have on the table.
Exactly.
But I don't
that's
think
a
that
big
the
issue.
left side push, there's like the leftists push that trans shit, but more center or left people, we're not with the, I all love the trans people. I know trans people, shout out to them. I want you to have rights, but also like, I don't want, a bunch of, people transitioning into women and then taking scholarships from women and eliminating the whole reason for Title IX. And, the whole reason why women's sports exists is because
I don't give
we
a
need
shit
them
about
to
all
have the
that.
spots.
Take all that shit, do all that shit. I don't give a fuck. Don't fuck with the kids.
But I
That's
think,
all
But I
care
don't think
about.
that was happening at the scale that it was put out, is
But
what
it
I'm
was.
saying.
Oh, I
don't think it
absolutely
was.
do.
I seen it.
I
in
can
my
tell you
daughter's school.
my daughter's, I was just going to say
Right.
that my daughter's school too. And like the majority of my daughter's friends believe that they're queer. And I think that a lot of that has to do with what we allow on social media and what they were allowed to push. And to be quite frank, right, every media outlet, what is it, like 80% of media outlets are owned by leftists?
That's how it used to be, but now it's kind of split the other way. Yeah, now it's right wing owns most
teetering.
of media.
But during that time, I think when transgenderism was really on full display, they weren't pushing out your more level-headed
for sure.
liberal
Right.
voices. They were pushing out more of the radicalized voices. And I think that's what caused this surge. And you're absolutely correct with the numbers, right? 0.5% of people are transgender, right? Like truly.
Yep.
But we're seeing that number rise. And not just that, the detransitioners. That freaking, the statistic on detransitioners is like crazy now.
There's a lot of suicide rates that are attached to that type of stuff and all that stuff.
Yes, and I think a
definitely
lot of it was because of that social media push. And not even, they may not have been pushing it, but they weren't taking out the fire. You know what I'm saying?
I think they were just trying to focus on things that they felt were more important, and they weren't trying to be like, oh, let's kind of denounce these people and take away and just start that whole conversation, because that's what Republicans want, is to muddy the waters as much as possible, so we don't talk about immigration, so we don't talk about the economy, we don't talk about inflation. We're sitting here talking about trans kids when I think there's under 5,000 trans kids in America that are under 18 taking hormones, not getting their stuff cut off, but just taking medication, and that's not a big enough population of anything for me to care that much. That's all I'm
absolutely,
saying.
absolutely. But
I'm trying to focus on more important
that's
issues
what
to
I'm
me.
saying. But that's what the big that was one of the main issues of why Trump got elected.
No,
right? So
even my sister told me that. She was like, "Hey, I'm not fucking with that shit because of this."
A lot of people try to make it a racial or a sexist thing because Kamala's, she's not white.
I don't think it was
Kamala's a woman, but I think the United States is ready for a woman president. I think
she just has to be charismatic and actually have good policies and all that shit.
But you know what it showed, the transgender issue? It was indicative of how much the left wasn't paying attention to the populace in the United States of America. They were too busy focused on what they wanted to push that they weren't actually listening to what our democratic republic wanted, right? And that's where they messed up. They kind of dug their own hole, because if they would have put out the fire a little bit and listened to the populace and the serious concerns parents had, right? Because we're raising kids, we're seeing our kids, we're
100%.
seeing all these
I agree.
friends that are like dressing all kinds of crazy and don't know if they're furry today.
Yeah.
Like this shit is real.
No,
I be
yeah, I get
tripping.
that. No,
I
I
be
feel that.
tripping. My daughter's 12 years old and I be looking at all the little friends and I just be like, oh my God.
Nah, I get that.
What is going on?
Yeah, I think the Dems' biggest misstep was messaging. Like Biden passed more legislation and like things during his presidency than Trump's both presidencies combined. By far, but. Nobody knows that. When I talk to people about the infrastructure bill or him appointing the first black lady to Supreme Court or all these things about getting us out of Afghanistan, nobody knows about that because they didn't do a good job messaging that. They kind of just, like you said, let the social media narratives run what defined Democrats. But that behind the scenes, Biden wasn't this big trans advocate when it came down to it policy-wise. He just wasn't. Gavin Newsom is more of a trans advocate than Biden ever was, like 10 times over.
And that's why I think it's by design.
But and Biden,
they're smart.
But Biden set a precedence, right? Because he had the House and the Senate, and he was able to pass these laws. He was able to get them. He was able to get them through, and he did. He passed some laws that were benefited Trump on his second term. So when Trump ended up getting the House and the Senate, he was like, "Well, if Biden could do it, I can do that shit too." And so that's what happens on both sides. They set a precedent to screw the other guy, but then when the other guy gets in office, he's like, Uno reverse card, bro. I'm flipping that shit on you. Not only that, now it's 10 times worse. Just like Gavin Newsom did with the fucking the voting districts in California because of Texas. And I
love that, and that's why I like Gavin Newsom because he's willing to do that. You know what I'm saying?
But Uno reverse card. Put a Republican in here. Now you're gonna have the same shit. Then
but if they start the shit throwing. I want a motherfucker that's gonna throw shit back. I don't want a motherfucker that's gonna just fold and just allow them to play dirty and break the rules, and then we're not breaking the rules too. If you're cheating, I'm cheating because we're both in the same race.
I want someone who's gonna be loud, but also be smart and play chess, not checkers.
I get
checkers.
That.
That's one move versus another move. If you're gonna go and you're just gonna counter a move that's gonna end up hurting the people in the long run, that's not what I want. I want you to counter that move, but make that move beneficial for the people of your state that you're governing. Because if you can't do that, then what the fuck is your problem? What are you doing?
I think in a way he played chess just because he made it temporary. So in 2028, he could redistrict them again and put them back where they were if it need be, and put that committee that was deciding before back in charge. So it's a temporary thing.
But who says that who says there's going to be a Democrat?
That's
in
a lot of faith in the
Well, that's just what's written into law. That's all I'm saying. That's what they're saying.
So Uno reverse card, you got a Republican in there. Bam,
yeah, but a Republican will never win California. It's just never. It hasn't happened in 50 years. It's not going to happen now.
Hey man, the way
that kind of comfortability is.
Right, I promise you. Hey, the midterms are coming up this year. Mark my words. I'll call it right now. Leftists or left-leaning people and left candidates are going to clean up in the midterms this year.
Nobody thought Donald Trump would take the House.
Yeah, the ICE stuff is ruining their shit, bro. Over 40% of the country just got polled and said that ICE should be abolished. That's like an extreme position to have. They're watching this shit and not fucking with it.
Nobody thought Trump was going to be the president the first time. All the Democrats thought it was a joke. They thought they had that in the bag. They thought they had Hillary Clinton in the bag and she was going to do it, and she didn't even have to. She didn't have to debate. She didn't have to study. And then this time, when by the time Trump's first his first term was over, they could have put a raccoon in the motherfucking White House and it would have beat Trump, right? Because everything was all fucked up. COVID had just happened. Yep. He was blamed for all that shit. The policy was fucked up. They could have put anybody they wanted in there, but they chose old ass, dumbass, retarded ass Biden. Yeah. Right? Like Biden couldn't even put two words together. Falling down.
But to me, that's what Trump looks like now. But people don't give him the same shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like he's just as old as Biden was back then. Right now,
fuck electing these old motherfuckers, man. Why the fuck they gotta be old? It's like it's a fucking it's mandatory. You gotta be a
geriatric.
Yeah, right. You gotta be.
There is an age.
Well, and I think 40, no, but I also a lot of the reason why younger people don't get into politics, right, is because I think the majority of people can see the bullshit behind politics.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
Talking about that cyclical thing earlier before we even went on here.
Yeah.
And in the 60s, it was the predominant thing in the zeitgeist to be politically conscious, right? And we're getting to that threshold right now, right? And I think now this cycle coming up is going to be a lot more conscious. Like you got
Yeah,
dudes that look like this dude, right? That's young like this dude. That's in their heads about everything that's happening.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of the stuff that we're seeing just on Instagram and on the other social media sites revolve around actual political figures. You know what I'm saying? And what's happening in the streets right now.
Yeah, and there was a big ass study that was recently done that a lot of Gen Z were like seeing the highest amount of Gen Z people go to church.
Yeah, I saw that too.
You know?
Yeah. That's me too.
So I'm like,
It's kind of like the pendulum swings one way and it swings back the other way. And like you said, in the 60s, it was that way. What was happening in the 60s? Civil rights, things that were waking people up to be like, damn, a lot of weird shit's going on. Let me be in tune so I can know what's going on.
I just hope more nuanced voices get amplified.